Can you tell I like Chucky? Taking my bracelets off because it's getting tight. Chucky, the killer doll. Everyone knows about Chucky. Everybody loves Chucky, unless you're weird. And everyone makes that same joke about how if Chucky was actually attacking them, they'd just like kick him off or throw him across the room. And no, you wouldn't. And here's why. Because he's gay, and it would be a hate crime. No, but in all seriousness, and joking aside, Chucky is one of the longest lasting horror icons, and he definitely deserves that spot. Tonight is the premiere of the new Chucky TV show on Sci-Fi. That's real, I am filming this today, and tonight is the actual premiere of the show. I am super excited for it for a lot of reasons. They used Heads Will Roll by �Y𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴𝐴 in the last trailer, so they win. But something I find incredible is that the creator of Child's Play, Don Mancini, who's as brilliant as he is gay, has managed to tell basically the same story over 7 films now since 1988. And starting tonight, 8 episodes of a TV show. And somehow the story is like pretty consistent for the most part. You really can't say that about a lot of other long-running horror series. I love Friday the 13th, but let's not act like that shit has had a cohesive story at all. Like, the first film, Jason's mother is the killer, and then in the second film, it's revealed that Jason is alive still because he supposedly drowned as a child in the first movie, but no, he's alive and he's around. And it just gets weirder from there. Child's Play and the Chucky series has remained consistent, and each sequel continues the story. The new TV show is bringing it all together because Don Mancini has said that the plans he has are too big to be told in a film's like limited runtime. So yeah, I'm way excited. And it's incredible that he cares about the fans and the series this much, to be this committed to it, this involved, and this consistent. The thing is, though, something I find much more interesting and really sweet is that Don Mancini, as a gay man, has managed to inject more and more elements of the LGBTQ community into these films. And over the years, Chucky has kind of become a gay icon. You hear that, little buddy? The gays all love you. And so in this video, I just kind of wanted to shine a spotlight on that, talk about one of my favorite horror franchises of all time, some of my favorite horror characters, and just how gay it all is. What I find really interesting is that it's just such a fascinating transformation to watch over the years. First off, if you don't know the story of Chucky, here's like a quick rundown. Charles Lee Ray was a serial murderer, and one fateful night he was gunned down in a toy store. Before he died, however, he used a voodoo ritual chant to transfer his soul into a toy, a good guy doll. A single mother then gets this doll as a gift for her son, Andy. And a whole heck of a lot of chaos ensues. Don Mancini originally started with a script called Batteries Not Included. The title had to be changed after they found out that another movie was being made with that same title, so it was changed to Blood Buddy. And the plot was actually very different than what we get in the finished film. The concept of Andy getting a toy is the same, but in this version, it was a doll that was marketed as having fake blood, so that if you played with it too roughly, it would like bleed. And Andy winds up accidentally mixing his blood with the doll's. And as such, the doll, it's implied that it becomes like animated, and symbolizes Andy's like suppressed rage as he's bullied and made to feel like an outcast, and the doll starts to go after Andy's enemies and corrupt authority figures. As I'm explaining this, it's not too far off from what we eventually got. From what I read though, this version was much more ambiguous, kind of leaving it open as to whether it was Andy committing these murders or a supernaturally possessed doll. Thing is though, with Child's Play, the first scene is Charles Lee Ray, good old Chuck, getting bodied and then saying, alright, I'm gonna head out. And then that's it. There's no mystery anymore. Credit where credit is due though, the film does have this really good pace and sense of mystery throughout, and you really don't see Chucky do anything for a while into the movie. But the writing and the characters and the performances, the direction, it's all so expertly done that it's never dull. Catherine Hicks as the mom gives such a good performance. It's ridiculous she wasn't even nominated for an Oscar for this shit. The cop who shot and killed Charles Lee Ray is played by Chris Sarandon, Hubba Hubba. I feel like it was a carryover from the director Tom Holland. No, not that Tom Holland. That Tom Holland, who directed Fright Night. Chris Sarandon starred in Fright Night, so I feel like it was a little bit of a carryover as this came out a few years later. I'm not complaining though, because Chris Sarandon as Detective Mike is... we stan one cop. Also, there's this moment that I love for obvious reasons. Hi, Mikey! The kid who plays Andy, Alex Vincent, is so good at acting. There's little moments where he like has to breathe in between lines, which is super cute, like normal kid acting stuff. But when he is scared for his life, or supposed to be scared for his life, I am scared for this child's life. It is so genuinely horrific that I've seen so many people, and I agree, say that they had to have actually told him, you're gonna die. Because that performance is too real for a child. But we haven't even talked about the main event. Brad motherfucking Dourif as Chucky. Brad Dourif is Chucky. And it sucks that he is only known for the Chucky role, as he's such an accomplished actor. I'm of the opinion that if you haven't seen him in The Exorcist 3, you haven't seen acting.
The Gemini is dead.
No, I am not! I'm alive! I go on! I breathe! Look at me! Look at me! And tell me what you see!
But the voice is so iconic, and he plays it with such a personality. It's insane. It's perfect. And his performance is only complemented by the incredible effects work by Kevin Yeager. Something I love is that the longer Chucky is in the body of the doll, the more human he becomes. And once he reaches a certain point, it'll be impossible for him to exit the doll. So that's why he's after Andy, is because he wants to transfer his soul into Andy, which is so horrific just as a concept. But that's what adds the urgency for him. That's what adds the conflict. And something really cool they do with the effects is they show that visually. As the film progresses, they make Chucky look more human. The texture of his skin changes. The hairline recedes. It's so cool. The movie's earned its icon status. It's an incredible movie that, like I said, it's very strange to go back to when you have the modern day Chucky in mind, because it's very much so a different beast. Like I said, Chucky really doesn't do much until later in the film, and it's much more of a detective mystery-esque type of movie. Don Mancini has gone on to say that the reason it's a single mother and her son in the film is growing up gay, he faced a bit of adversity from his father, and as such, he didn't want to include anything like that in his script, so he made it more maternal as such. And already he was using his experiences in the LGBTQ community and having that influence his writing, and personally, I think the film is stronger for it. Again, Catherine Hicks is amazing as the mother, and you really feel their relationship. The second movie came out 2 years later, and boy, that's the good shit. Child's Play 2 is the fan favorite for a reason. Growing up, it was absolutely my favorite, and my reasoning was that it it brilliantly introduced this new tone of bright colors and low, wide angles. It was very childlike, the perspective of it, and it was so interesting to me. And of course, seeing Chucky in his improved animatronics and longer screen time, as there's no real mystery that needs to be had anymore, it was endlessly entertaining and really, really, really got me into my love of filmmaking, because just seeing Chucky move and articulate was I was a child. I wasn't scared of him, like, at all. I was interested, I was fascinated, I was entertained. The second film was directed by the late John LaFia, and he does an amazing job. And Don Mancini continues the story really well, with Andy now in foster care, and we get introduced to the parents and his foster sister, Kyle, who acts as a bit of a mentor and guardian, and also was one of my first movie crushes, so that's cool. I don't really have too much to say about this one. It's just a really solid sequel, like one of the best sequels I've ever seen, let alone in the horror genre. And I'm so happy to know that so many other people watched this religiously growing up, and it had as big of an impact on them as it did me, because it's just, it's amazing. The kills are cool, the movie's really funny, and oh my god, the finale. The finale takes place in the actual factory where they produce good guy dolls. And it looks like a playground of a location for the filmmakers. And it feels like a playground. They had so much fun with it. And it's one of the most entertaining and thrilling climaxes I've ever seen. Chucky rips his hand off so violently and then just jams a knife into it. And now he has a knife hand. If that's not the coolest shit you've ever heard. Child's Play 3 is also an interesting one, but for different reasons. I enjoyed the film. I can look past a lot of its flaws, but this is definitely considered the worst in the series. It takes place in the future at a military academy. Ew. It ages Andy up to a teenager and recasts him, and overall it's just really not, it doesn't really add anything. And to be fair, that's not the fault of Don Mancini, at least directly, as a threequel was ordered literally during post-production of Child's Play 2, and it wound up being released as a finished film 9 months after the release of Child's Play 2, which is insane. Don Mancini had to write and oversee the making of an entire film in 9 months, and that's not a lot of time. It's easier to make a human baby than it is to make a film in 9 months. The third film is pretty uninteresting, pretty boring. The most lively thing I can talk about is the hair fetishist barber. You heard me right, the hair fetishist barber. I also can't really think of any connections to like an LGBTQ element in the film. Chucky wears lipstick. Can you say icon? Bride of Chucky, though. That's when things get really fun. Child's Play 3 eventually ended the series for a little bit. There was a break between it and the next film, and between that, we saw a lot of reform. All the horror icons were going through a bit of a rebirth by that time. Jason Voorhees was bought out by New Line, and with that came this weird little soft reboot that was very different. Nightmare on Elm Street even got the same treatment with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is so brilliant. Oh my god, if you like Nightmare on Elm Street, please check it out. It's so good. Michael Myers was going through his weird phase, and right when you think it's over and all these horror icons were kind of going in the wrong direction, Scream comes out. Scream changed everything for horror, and since the new one's coming out, I'm gonna probably make a video about that, but the long and short of it is Scream introduced this new wave of ironic, meta, self-aware satire in horror. It revitalized the genre in that way. And Chucky, interestingly, was the first one to really follow suit in that. Bride of Chucky was released in 1988. No, that's the first movie. Bride of Chucky was released in 1998, a full 10 years after the first film and 7 years after the last one. Yeah, Child's Play 1, 2, and 3 all came out within like 4 years, and that's a lot. So this new Bride of Chucky movie was a real step forward for the series. It changed a lot. Some would argue for the worse, and this is where a lot of the LGBTQ connections really start. For one, this is where they give Chucky his, some would argue, equally as iconic, if not more iconic, love interest and partner, Tiffany Valentine, who, ladies and gentlemen, let's just congratulate Don Mancini and the crew for giving me my second childhood movie crush. Because you cast Jennifer Tilly, and people will thank you. As for the LGBTQ connections, this is where they really start. Jennifer Tilly was cast largely due to her role in Bound, which was a lesbian romance film. The film starts out with Tiffany bringing Chucky back to life and then being harassed by some creep. And that creep is played by trans actor Alexis Arquette, which is awesome. And not only because it's one of the coolest fucking kills in the entire franchise. The film gets its title from Bride of Frankenstein, a movie directed by one of the first openly gay directors in Hollywood. The two human characters, their friend is an explicitly gay character. It's just really cool to see shit like this in a blockbuster horror franchise, especially for 1998. Things would only get crazier though from here on out. Bride of Chucky was another one of my favorites as a kid, because it really had this 90s gothic grunge aesthetic. Definitely still one of my top favorites. There's just so much to love here. The score is amazing. Don't even get me started on that fucking sexy little guitar lick that's the one of the main themes. Graham Revell, however you say your name, I hope I'm not being rude. You fuck hard. All of the scores for every Child's Play movie is amazing, and that's so rare. The same theme is never really used twice. It's always a different theme. It always sounds different, and it's always so fucking good. Go and listen to the themes of every Chucky movie. They're all fucking god tier. The film ends with Tiffany giving birth to a demonic little doll baby. Oh, look at their little sharp teeth. They're so cute. Setting things up perfectly for the direction they wanted to go in. And oh boy, did they go. Seed of Chucky came out in 2004, and that shit rules. This is considered by a lot of fans to be the worst movie. It went full comedy. It is no longer a horror franchise at this point. It is a full-on meta-satire comedy. And I'm going to try and explain the plot as quickly as I can. So remember the baby that Tiffany had at the end of Bride of Chucky? Yeah, they're this now. They're a bit deformed, a pacifist, and voiced by Billy Boyd. That's right, y'all. Pippin is voicing Chucky's gender-fluid child. You heard me right. We'll get to it. Elsewhere, there's a movie about Chucky and Tiffany being made, and Jennifer Tilly plays Jennifer Tilly in the movie, who's playing Tiffany. Stay with me. So the spawn of Chucky winds up seeing them on TV in a little ad. And I shit you not, because they both have the Made in Japan symbol on their wrists, Chucky's kid takes that as meaning that he's Japanese, and so are their parents. So when they see this, they're like, oh, my parents! And then they go and bring Chucky and Tiffany back to life, but oh shit, we still gotta get in human bodies, because that's the plot of these movies. So their plan is to artificially inseminate Jennifer Tilly and use her, Redman, who's in the movie, who plays a director, he plays Redman, who for some reason is directing a movie about the Virgin Mary. And Jennifer Tilly is planning to sleep with him to get the role in the movie. So their plan is to artificially inseminate Jennifer Tilly and use her, Redman, and the baby that comes out Oh, this movie is so fucking crazy. It's just something you have to see for yourself. And it's not a bad comedy. It clearly, you can tell, it is funny as hell. Mancini actually took over directing duties for this movie, his first step into the director's chair, and it's not terrible by any means. Any problems with the direction are not stylistic or vision-wise, it's purely budgetary by the looks of it, as a lot of it does have this cheap feel that, again, granted, wasn't the fault of the filmmaker necessarily. They had to shoot in Romania for tax reasons, and it was just a lot of shit. I personally think it adds this surreal, kind of dreamlike visual quality to it all. But this movie's funny, it's gory, it opens up with Chucky's CGI sperm impregnating Tiffany. But then we get this like awesome point of view sequence of what we eventually learn is Chucky's kid going and killing a family in this house, and it's so expertly done. Like, it's a good, well-made movie for the most part. And again, great fucking score. But this is the one where Don Mancini really started putting elements from the LGBTQ community into his films. As, like I said, Chucky's kid is gender fluid. Don Mancini was actually inspired by a film called Glenn or Glenda, after which Chucky's kid is actually named. Chucky wants a boy. Tiffany wants a girl. So they wind up calling them both Glenn and Glenda. Glenn or Glenda was a 50s film made by queer filmmaker Ed Wood. Yes, that Ed Wood, who was famously a crossdresser. And while Glenn or Glenda doesn't really handle the subject matter in a terrific way, I mean, it was the 50s, it's still really fascinating and interesting. And Don Mancini was inspired by this to add a queer element very explicitly to the film in the character of Glenn/Glenda. Like I said, Glenn is a pacifist, but Glenda is another side of them, and they are absolutely not a pacifist. There's actually a really serious scene that's played so straight. I can't help but laugh at it though, when Glenda comes through and like presents themselves for the first time and starts like acting crazy, and Tiffany just fucking whoosh.
Like mother, like daughter. Get it? Mother and daughter, mother, daughter.
I said wake up! Right now!
Mom?
And it's such a serious moment. For no reason. This doesn't really handle the subject matter in the best way, but again, it's just crazy to see something like that in what was at the time a major blockbuster horror franchise still. And this line is really good and interesting.
Well, which is it?
I'm not sure. Sometimes I feel like a boy. Sometimes I feel like a girl. Can I be both?
Of course, the film is mainly a comedy, so it ends with Glenn/Glenda fighting Chucky in like a martial arts parody. Dude, I have to move on. Seed of Chucky effectively killed the series for a while. That was until 2013's Curse of Chucky, which is probably the most interesting and probably my favorite one at this point. Actually, no. I think I might like the one after it, like, even more. Either way, Curse of Chucky is a bit of a soft reboot, not story-wise, tonally, as it goes back all the way to the first film, and really brings that mystery element, and that suspense, and that pseudo-serious tone, and adds new characters like Nika, who's a paraplegic that we eventually learn is a paraplegic because of Chucky. So that's just an amazing character motivation for her. And God, Mancini's direction was so vastly improved between Seed and this. It's like two different people directed them. And I don't say that as a bad thing. Like I said, I like Seed of Chucky. I don't think any flaws of it were necessarily direction-wise. There is a lesbian couple in this film. The only thing is they are awful people. Not the actors, it's just the characters. And they're not badly written, it's just they're horrible people. But the story is continued in Cult of Chucky, which actually uses a multiple Chuckies concept that Mancini wanted to use all the way back in 3, but unfortunately wasn't able to due to studio and budgetary constraints. By the time it finally shows up, dog, it's so fucking cool. Putting my bracelets back on because I feel naked. It'd probably also help if I put on pants. Future me, cut that out. The film ends with Chucky also taking control of Nika, and that presents a very interesting dynamic between them and Tiff.
So this is different.
The film ends on a cliffhanger, but it's brought back Tiffany, Andy, Kyle, all these characters, and it really feels like it's setting up something greater. And as we eventually found out, that turned out to be the Chucky TV show. Don Mancini said that the ideas he wants to explore are too big for the limited runtime of a movie with everything he set up. So I'm very fascinated to watch the series, but I'm also happy to hear that he's even continuing the series' connection to the LGBTQ community and pulling from apparently very intimate and personal experiences. The show apparently follows a young gay teen, and Mancini has said that this is a bit autobiographical in a way. And I know this was a long-winded and probably poorly structured video, but again, I just wanted to talk about how one of my favorite franchises has incorporated more and more elements of the LGBTQ community into it as the films have gone on, and that's incredible, not only for the fans, but for the creator himself, Don Mancini. I am so proud of him for what he's been able to do with this franchise, and it's no small feat. How consistent he is with the themes and with the story itself over 33 years, spanning 7 films, and starting tonight, 8 episodes of a TV show. That just shows how dedicated and committed he is to this series, to the fans, and that deserves so much respect. So that's why I made this video. To give the respect and appreciation Don Mancini's handling of LGBTQ themes in a horror blockbuster franchise as big as Chucky. Chucky's a gay icon. Chucky said gay rights. Hell yeah. This was another unscripted video. These are way easier to make, but also really stressful. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share it with your friends, maybe subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.